There comes a time in your life when you realize that the only thing standing between where you are and where you know you can be is not the world outside of you, but the walls you've built inside of you. We carry doubts, fears, and old stories like heavy luggage, dragging them from one season of life to the next. And those stories whisper, "You can't." They tell you, "You're not enough." They convince you that the door is locked, when in reality the key has always been in your hands. But here's what I know. You were not born to live small, to live trapped, or to live defeated. You were born with a power, a fire, a greatness that's waiting to be unleashed. And the moment you decide to destroy those unconscious blockages, to break free from that negativity, to tear down the invisible prison of your mind, that's the moment you step into your true destiny. Today I'm not here just to inspire you. I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to remind you that the obstacles inside your head are no match for the strength inside your heart. And if you're willing to let go of the lies, willing to embrace new possibilities, willing to rise higher than your fears, then your life will never ever be the same again. Awareness is the first weapon because everything in our lives begins with the recognition of what is happening within us. So many people live day to day carrying burdens they cannot name, fighting battles they cannot see, and running in circles because they don't realize they are chained by something invisible. When you walk around unaware of your own blockages, you may feel frustrated and confused, wondering why success seems to slip through your fingers, why happiness feels temporary, or why peace of mind is always just out of reach. The truth is, until you recognize the hidden forces that control your thoughts and your emotions, you cannot change them. Awareness is the switch that turns on the light in a dark room, and once that light comes on, you begin to see the obstacles for what they really are. It is not the world outside of you that keeps you trapped. It is the unconscious programming, the old habits, and the silent voices in your head that tell you what you can and cannot do. Think about how many people inherit beliefs without even realizing it. A child grows up hearing parents argue about money, and without knowing it, he begins to believe that money is always connected to pain and conflict. Another child is told she is not smart enough, not strong enough, not capable, and those words sink deep into her subconscious. Years later, as an adult, she still hears those words echo in the back of her mind whenever she wants to take a bold step. This is the way unconscious blockages are built. They are not chosen, they are absorbed, and then they become part of the mental software that controls our decisions. But awareness is the moment you stop living on autopilot and you start to observe your own thoughts. You step back and you say, "Wait a minute, is this belief true? Is this feeling real? Or is it just a program I've been carrying all along?" That single question, that act of awareness, is the beginning of freedom. When you look at great achievers, you realize they had to become aware of their own inner barriers before they could overcome them. They had to confront the doubts, the fears, and the negative self-talk that once held them back. It is not that they were born fearless or flawless. They simply learned to recognize when a limiting belief was at work, and by recognizing it, they took away its power. This is what makes awareness a weapon. Once you see the hidden chains, you can begin to break them. Without awareness, you are swinging in the dark, fighting shadows. With awareness, you are striking at the very source of your struggle. Awareness also demands honesty. It requires courage to admit that some of the negativity in your life is not coming from other people or from circumstances, but from within you. It is easy to blame the outside world, to say that life is unfair or that opportunities are not available. But when you become truly aware, you begin to notice how many times you have told yourself, "I can't," how many times you sabotaged your own progress by procrastinating, by doubting, by quitting too soon. This is not about guilt, it is about clarity. Awareness allows you to take ownership, and ownership is power. As long as you think the problem is outside of you, you will wait for someone else to fix it. But when you become aware that the problem is inside, you realize you already hold the solution. Developing awareness is a practice. It means paying attention to your inner dialogue. It means observing the emotions that rise up when you face a challenge. It means noticing the excuses that automatically come up when you try to do something new. At first, this can feel uncomfortable because you start to see just how much negativity you have carried unconsciously. But remember, the discomfort is a sign of growth. The very act of noticing is already progress. When you are aware, you no longer react blindly, you begin to respond with intention. You begin to ask better questions. What is this thought trying to tell me? Is it helping me, or is it holding me back? You start to catch the patterns in real time, and with every moment of awareness, you loosen the grip of those old blockages. The beauty of awareness is that it opens the door to choice. Without it, you are trapped in cycles you do not understand. With it, you begin to see multiple paths. You begin to realize that every time a negative thought appears, you have the power to either feed it or starve it. You can choose to keep repeating the old story, or you can choose to write a new one. And every choice you make builds momentum toward the life you want. Awareness transforms unconscious habits into conscious decisions. It transforms hidden blockages into visible challenges you can face. It transforms the unknown into the known. And once something is known, it can be changed. Challenge the negative narrative, because the stories we tell ourselves shape the reality we experience. Every single day, your mind is speaking to you, and often it repeats the voices of the past, the voices of people who doubted you, the voices of experiences where you felt powerless or unworthy. These narratives are like scripts written long ago, and without realizing it, you continue to act them out. You might want to start something new, but the moment you think about it, that inner voice says, "You're not ready, you're not capable, you're not enough." That voice is not truth, but if you accept it as truth, it becomes the prison you live in. The power lies in challenging that voice, refusing to let it dictate your future, and daring to replace it with a narrative that empowers you instead of cripples you. The negative narrative often begins quietly, almost unnoticeable. It may sound reasonable at first. Be careful, don't take that risk. You might fail. It disguises itself as protection, but in reality, it's fear trying to keep you small. Over time, those small whispers become louder until they control your choices. You decline opportunities, you stop taking chances, you settle for less than you deserve, because the narrative convinces you that comfort is safer than growth. The problem is, safety does not lead to fulfillment, and comfort does not create transformation. To live the life you were meant to live, you must interrupt the negative story and challenge it. You must ask yourself, whose voice is this? Who told me I couldn't? Who decided this was the limit of my potential? When you trace the roots of these narratives, you often find they are not your own. They belong to teachers, parents, friends, or even strangers who passed their fears on to you. The story does not belong to you, yet you carry it as if it does. Challenging the negative narrative requires courage, because it means standing up to a voice that feels familiar. Familiarity creates comfort, even if it is destructive. You might feel like that inner critic is a part of who you are, but it is not. It is a learned voice. And what is learned can be unlearned. Every time you face a thought that says you are not good enough, you have a choice: accept it or question it. The moment you question it, you weaken it. The moment you say, maybe that's not true, maybe I am capable, maybe I can, you begin to shift the story. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending challenges don't exist. It is about refusing to let those challenges define your identity. The narrative you choose determines the strength you bring to the fight. There is a profound connection between the mind and the outcomes you create in life. People who constantly tell themselves a story of failure begin to see evidence of failure everywhere. People who constantly affirm a story of resilience begin to see possibilities where others see problems. This is not magic. It is focus. Whatever story you repeat most often becomes the lens through which you view the world, and the world responds to the energy you bring. If your narrative is, I can't, then you stop looking for how you can. If your narrative is, I will figure this out, then solutions begin to reveal themselves. The story you choose to tell yourself every day shapes your decisions, and your decisions shape your destiny. The process of replacing the negative narrative with an empowering one begins with awareness, but it requires repetition. You cannot challenge a story once and expect it to disappear. These narratives have been rehearsed for years, sometimes decades. They will fight to stay alive. That is why you must be intentional about writing a new story and speaking it until it becomes louder than the old one. Affirmations, visualization, journaling, and surrounding yourself with positive influences are all tools that help you reinforce the new narrative. The key is consistency. The negative voice is persistent, but your commitment to a new story must be stronger. Over time, as you continue to challenge and replace, the old narrative loses its grip, and the empowering one becomes your new default. Challenging the negative narrative also transforms the way you handle failure and rejection. Instead of saying, I failed, so I'm a failure, you begin to say, I failed, so I learned. Instead of saying, they rejected me because I'm not worthy, you begin to say, their rejection is redirection. The story shifts from weakness to resilience, from limitation to possibility. This shift in narrative does not erase difficulties, but it changes the way you interpret them. And when the interpretation changes, your response changes. You stop giving up so easily, you stop doubting yourself so quickly, and you start approaching life with confidence instead of hesitation. Every time you challenge the negative narrative, you reclaim a piece of your power. You remind yourself that you are not defined by the stories of the past, you are defined by the story you choose to tell today. And in that choice lies the power to destroy unconscious blockages and negativity that have kept you from stepping fully into your potential. Shift your energy and environment, because no matter how strong your intentions are, you cannot rise above a toxic atmosphere without making deliberate changes to what surrounds you and what fuels you. Energy is contagious, and the environment you live in constantly feeds your mind, whether you are aware of it or not. If you are surrounded by negativity, by people who complain, by situations that drain you, and by habits that weaken you, then even with the best mindset, you will eventually feel pulled down. Just as a seed needs healthy soil, sunlight, and water to grow, you need an environment filled with positivity, encouragement, and discipline to thrive. Without shifting your energy and your surroundings, your growth will always be limited. The truth is, many people underestimate the power of energy. Walk into a room where people are angry and you can feel the tension even without a word being spoken. Walk into a space where people are joyful and hopeful, and suddenly your spirit lifts. That is the invisible force of energy, and it is shaping you more than you realize. You carry your own personal energy as well, and the way you speak, think, and act determines whether that energy is uplifting or draining. If you wake up every day complaining, focusing on what's wrong, and repeating negative cycles, then your personal energy becomes heavy, and it affects not only you but also everyone around you. To destroy unconscious blockages and negativity, you must first take responsibility for the energy you carry. Shifting your energy begins with your habits. What do you consume daily? Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The books you read, the conversations you engage in, the music you listen to, the shows you watch, all of these shape your inner state. If you constantly feed your mind with fear, drama, and scarcity, then your subconscious becomes conditioned to expect more of the same. But when you deliberately feed yourself with wisdom, inspiration, and empowering knowledge, your energy rises. You begin to see possibilities where before you only saw problems. Your mindset expands, and with it, your capacity to create change grows. Environment is not only about what you consume, but also about who you spend time with. People are either multipliers of your energy or destroyers of it. Spend time with those who encourage you, who believe in your dreams, who challenge you to rise higher, and your spirit will strengthen. Spend time with those who constantly complain, criticize, or doubt you, and your vision will shrink. Sometimes the hardest but most necessary step in growth is to distance yourself from environments that keep you stuck. That may mean spending less time in circles where gossip and negativity dominate. It may mean limiting conversations with people who constantly try to convince you that your dreams are unrealistic. It may even mean creating new environments altogether, seeking mentors, communities, or groups that uplift you instead of drain you. Shifting your environment also requires order and clarity in your physical space. Your surroundings reflect your mind, and your mind reflects your surroundings. If your environment is chaotic, cluttered, and disorganized, it subtly reinforces the feeling of being overwhelmed or stuck. But when you create spaces that are clean, inspiring, and organized, your energy naturally feels lighter. Something as simple as beginning the day with a clean workspace, a few minutes of silence, and words of gratitude can completely shift the tone of your day. It reminds you that you are in control of the atmosphere you create for yourself. Energy is also shifted through movement. Stagnation creates heaviness, and heaviness fuels negativity. When you move your body, whether through exercise, walking, stretching, or any form of physical activity, you release trapped emotions and activate vitality. The body and mind are deeply connected, and when your body is energized, your mind becomes sharper, your spirit feels freer, and your outlook becomes more positive. Many people wait until they feel motivated to move, but in truth, movement creates the motivation. By choosing to shift your physical energy, you send a signal to your mind that change is possible. Your environment extends beyond the physical and social. It also includes the inner environment you cultivate through your thoughts and emotions. Practicing gratitude, mindfulness, and intentional focus is a way of shaping an inner space that supports growth instead of resistance. Gratitude, especially, is a powerful shift in energy. When you focus on what you have instead of what you lack, you raise your vibration. You stop feeding the unconscious negativity that says not enough, and start feeding the abundance that already exists in your life. When you begin to shift both your energy and your environment, you create a foundation where blockages lose their grip. The negativity that once felt overwhelming no longer finds a place to thrive. The people, spaces, and practices that surround you start to reinforce your new path instead of pulling you back to the old one. Every small decision to choose uplifting conversations, to create order in your space, to move your body, to feed your mind with positivity, builds momentum. And with each shift, your energy aligns more closely with the life you are striving to create. Act with courage and consistency because transformation does not come from ideas alone. It comes from action that is repeated until it becomes a way of life. Many people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect feeling before they begin, but perfection never arrives. What creates change is the willingness to take the first step, even when fear is loud, and then to keep stepping forward, even when the results are not immediate. Courage is the force that allows you to move despite fear, and consistency is the discipline that ensures you don't stop once you've started. Together, they become the bridge from intention to transformation. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act while fear is present. Fear will always try to protect you by exaggerating the risks and hiding the possibilities. Fear says, what if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if you lose everything? But courage says, what if I succeed? What if I grow? What if I become stronger than I ever imagined? Every breakthrough in life begins with an act of courage. It might be the courage to speak up when you've always stayed silent, the courage to try something new when you're comfortable in routine, or the courage to keep going after a painful setback. Without courage, unconscious blockages remain intact. because fear convinces you to accept them as permanent walls. With courage, you begin to test those walls and discover they were never as solid as they seemed. Consistency is just as critical, because one act of courage is not enough to build lasting change. The world is full of people who start strong but stop when it gets hard. They set goals, they make promises to themselves, they declare big dreams, but when the excitement fades and the obstacles appear, they retreat. Transformation requires the steady, repetitive actions that build new habits and new beliefs. Consistency is waking up every day and choosing to align your behavior with your vision even when you don't feel like it. It is practicing discipline until what once felt difficult becomes natural. It is the steady drip of effort that wears down the rock of resistance. Acting with courage and consistency means committing to a process instead of chasing quick results. Real change takes time, and that is why so many people quit too early. They plant a seed, and when they don't see growth immediately, they assume nothing is happening. But growth is taking place beneath the surface, long before it shows above the ground. The same is true in your life. The actions you repeat daily, studying, exercising, speaking positively, building discipline, are creating roots that will eventually show in your results. Courage plants the seed, consistency waters it, and over time, the harvest appears. Another reason courage and consistency matter is because your unconscious blockages and negativity are deeply ingrained. They will resist change. When you try to move forward, those old voices will return, louder than before, warning you not to risk it. If you act with courage once but stop, when the resistance comes back, the blockage wins. But if you act with courage and then reinforce that action with consistency, the old patterns begin to break down. Each consistent action rewires your subconscious. Each courageous step convinces your mind that you are stronger than the fear. The combination of courage and consistency also builds confidence. Confidence does not appear out of nowhere. It is earned through repeated evidence that you can trust yourself. Every time you act with courage and follow through consistently, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Slowly, the doubts begin to fade because your actions are louder than your fears. This confidence then fuels even greater acts of courage, creating a cycle of growth. Courage and consistency are also contagious. When others see you facing your fears and staying committed to your vision, they are inspired to do the same. Your actions ripple outward, influencing the energy of those around you. In this way, your courage not only destroys your own blockages, but also helps others confront theirs. Your consistency creates stability that others can learn from. You become an example of what is possible, not because you were fearless or perfect, but because you were brave and disciplined. Acting with courage and consistency is the practical application of everything else. Awareness helps you see the blockage. Challenging the negative narrative changes the story in your mind. Shifting your energy and environment gives you strength. But without courage and consistency, none of it lasts. It is only when you act on what you know and when you keep acting long after the initial motivation fades that transformation truly takes root.